how's your heart today? And when he says that, it kind of takes you back and you start to think, and everything just erases your mind and you realize how you're feeling and what's going on in your life. And more importantly, he also enables you to find out how you can help other people and kind of apply what you've learned or apply your life experiences to enable other people. Because a lot of what he teaches is about reaching out to other people and building bridges, and he showed me that it's applicable in every situation.
I remember him saying once that it's whenever you have integrated your personal with the professional, you integrate the heart with the mind, that integration is integrity. That's where you get your integrity from. When you really have broadened the heart as a tool of analysis, it brings you to a place of service, and how service is the highest expression of your own path.
We're a university that offers what we hope is always a safe haven for as wide a set of views to be expressed as possible. Dr. Said has been elemental in carrying that message forward, and then through the creation of the Peace and Conflict Resolution Program has provided both a scholarly and a teaching foundation that now extends really into the heart of our academic work.
I had gone and made the tour of various universities in the DC area, and all of the professors have been very friendly, and it was, well, what can I answer regarding our program for you? And he had a very different approach. It was, what do you want to do? Is this going to be the right thing for you? Is this going to be the right place for you? And it immediately took me aback because I felt as though he was really homing in on me as a person and not on the school as a product, in trying to establish that relationship and that feeling of, if you come here, you will belong to something that's more like a family in a certain sense than simply a place to study for a couple of years.
What's really remarkable about how he teaches and how he mentors is he's not interested in having you think what he thinks. You know, he's not trying to tell you what to think. He's trying to help you find your own truth and your own path and your own way of thinking and believing. He helps you to learn how to think.
The dialogue became about tossing ideas, exchanging ideas, listening to each other, rather than just me listening to him. He won't allow it. He wanted to hear me, even though I thought he's the one who has the wise words, the wisdom.
A good teacher is someone who gives you information, who explains things well. And after having him, I realized that a great teacher, an amazing teacher, is someone who kind of guides you through the process and kind of leads you in a way that you don't realize that you're being led, and provides you with information that later you come to find out that has changed the whole way that you see the world.
I learned to love teaching and how to relate to students, I think, because of Abdul. The first lesson I learned is get their attention, and then maintain a relationship with students. And anyone who's ever had Abdul as a professor still has a relationship with Abdul.
Professor Said always puts students first. And I mean, if that meant, NBC News wants to interview him for, the prime time hour, no. If it conflicts with classes, no, it's not done. And we had State Department, Vice President, all kinds of people trying to meet with him. And he'd meet with them fine, but not if it ever conflicted with student hours, with classes.
He customizes his classes. No single class is ever going to feature the same readings or the same dynamics, because of the fact that he goes around that first meeting, asks everybody about their background. Using the information that we know about some of these students, how should we adjust the curriculum?
And his presence in his office has a lot to do with his support of students. Students come to him and talk to him. Students in his classes come and talk to him and learn from him. They come as individuals, they come in groups when they have things they're collectively concerned about or wanting to do. And they come to talk to him when they're not in his classes.
He has a very open mind, an amazingly open mind. and he knows how to listen. And he genuinely, I believe, wants to understand the other, no matter who the other is.
Yes, the first thing that surprised me was to learn very soon that Abdul, a man of Syrian descent, an Arab in effect, was the faculty advisor for the Jewish fraternity. He believed in negotiating your way out of problems. He believed in peaceful settlement of disputes. He believed in collective action. He believed in what today we call multilateralism. He believed in institutions, acting with your allies rather than acting alone.
A colleague of mine, whom I had not seen for many years, was visiting camp. He said, Said, what are you doing these days? Still teaching? I said, yes. He said, what do you teach? I said, peace and conflict resolution. He said, my God, you are still, after 50 years, in the back of the bus? I said, yeah, I like the people in the back of the bus. He was referring to the old days in the United States only. If you're black, you sit in the back of the bus. He said, man, he said, this will amount to a hill of beans. I said, you don't know. I deal with a mountain of gold.
You know, there are a lot of us who count beans in this town, and there are not too many that dream and hope. You got to have both. Now, you might think that out of such a procedure and methodology would come nothing or total chaos. What has come? I believe I'm right that his center for peace and conflict resolution, think of those words, peace, conflict resolution. Now, the world always have people who are seeking that. It has become, I believe, the largest single component of SIS. So somehow it worked.
Peace and conflict resolution starts from within. And really, if you don't have that in some form from within, it's not going to flow from there into any sort of external sphere.
I view American University as one of the most important schools in the United States in all aspects of international business and service.
So a man goes to a quarry, and there are 3 workers there, and he asks the first worker, what do you do? And the man says, I cut stone. Well, I cut a lot of stone in my life too. I know what it's like to cut stone. He goes up to the second man, and he says, what do you do? And the second man says, I make money. And I do that too. It's not my primary aim, but I need money to feed my family. So he goes up to the third man, and he's the third worker, and he says, what do you do? And the man says, I build cathedrals. And in fact, they're all doing the same thing, but yet the one who building the cathedrals is holding his work, is framing his work in a way that is inspiring, if you will, and it can inspire others. And I like to use that story when I start a workshop or a conference or whatever. And the challenge always is to build cathedrals. And one of the lovely, wonderful things about Abdul Aziz Said, he's been building cathedrals for 50 years here at American University and everywhere.
He lived in the desert in his young age, and he feels more open to anything and everything. So he's not a closed person. And he doesn't like to put walls. He likes to see spaces, more valleys, and as long as you can. He doesn't like mountains in his mind that to block a vision.
3 words: gentle, kind, loving. He's a humanist in many respects, but he's worldly, but he cares about people.
He was a realist, really, but with a heart. So I call this a prudent realist.
He's also like a spiritual guide to me that I look up to. So he's always been like this anchor in my life here.
There's American University. It has a special name and a special locale with a special history and a special presence and, I think, future. Abdul Aziz understood that. He understood it years ago.
When I was invited a couple of years ago to lecture, to present a lecture to members of the board during the Ladner crisis, I said, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to be here on sacred ground, and sometimes known as American University. It's a sacred ground. I mean, for me, it's my home. Yeah.
He really is devoted to AU. He cares about the university. When the university is up, he's up. When it's down, he's down. And over the years, he's known so many people. He's known essentially all of the deans, all of the faculty, certainly in his college, his school, all of the provosts, the presidents, many of the trustees, and thousands of students. He doesn't just know them and meet them and have them in a class, but he cares. He cares, where's it going? What's it going to be? What's it doing?
Dr. Said has literally given his life to this institution. We owe him an enormous debt, but we're not prepared yet for him to cash it in. I mean, we want him to stay here. You know, another 50 years is probably a bit much to expect, but certainly I would hope that the near-term future of the institution includes him in it.
And for me, working with one another that time, not only it has been rewarding, but that was a transforming experience for me, to find myself a source of strength and support for others. And me, my God, how, yeah, but that has been, for me, rewarding.
Well, the first thing I would ask him to do is to find a biologist friend of himself and to clone himself. So there could be 3 or 4 or 5 Abdul Aziz Saids that I could be working with instead of just one, because he's such a constructive, positive presence around.
He's good size, has piercing eyes, and he has one of the most gentle, loving hearts you've ever encountered.
But everyone probably falls over their tongue like I do when someone asks me about him, because you just shake your head and you just don't know where to start.
I don't know, it's hard to say because it's so much. It's so much. I don't know how to start.
I think that's the attraction of Abdul Aziz Said, is that his starting point is, I don't know it all. After 50 years of being a professor at AU, after 50 years of reading and writing and analyzing and reflecting and thinking, he's the first one to tell you, I know very little.
Sources of knowledge are infinite. Infinite. We know that we are learning when we learn from the lame how to leap. We know that we are learning when we learn from a blind person how to see. So everything is a source of learning. Phew, this is, it is for me a journey, a never-ending journey of discovery.